I have a disclaimer to make. I don't think anyone should do ayahuasca unless they completely understand what it is and why they are doing it. That being said, I had no idea what it is or why I was doing it. Still, I do believe that everything happens for a reason, and as I learned later on that day, that means everything. I had my reasons for doing it, and they were as follows. 1, my boyfriend was doing it, and 2, my boyfriend was doing it. So that day in the car ride up to upstate New York, everybody else was singing me happy, happy, joy, joy praises of an ayahuasca trip, and I was thinking of 2 words, La Purga. Now, before I explain what La Purga is, I will explain a little bit more about myself. I am sometimes a pessimist, and even if the glass is half full, I see it as half empty. I see a common cold as a prelude to cancer. And I saw ayahuasca as something I had to do because I was afraid of it, something I had to overcome. So I was in the car thinking about La Purga, and La Purga is actually the purge. And a lot of people experience an well, no, that's not true, not a lot. People experience an extreme form of purging or cleansing, and that's also code word for 2 things, puking and pooping. And I wasn't really into either one of those things at the time. So when we get up to the cabin and the surrounding land where we're going to take this journey, we climb up to a hill, and I immediately notice that there are no toilets on the hill because it is a hill. And that being said, I start to wonder what will happen if one of my 2 fears, comes true. So we make this circle with blankets, and we are all getting ready to participate in our journey. And I turn to the guide and I ask him where one might go if they had to use the bathroom. And he points to a hole about 20 feet from the circle behind a tree, and he says, just go right over there. Now, I do work a lot of my life in the sex industry, and one of my mentors is a woman who is a complete lady, and her words resonated in my head that a woman does not poop in front of her partner, and these were a lot of people to not poop in front of. So I was a little bit nervous, but I decided that this was a fear I'd have to overcome, and that the only thing I could do was just let it be and see what happens. So I made my way back to the circle, and we all drank down the brew, and I was the second to last person to drink, and I noticed a lot of those faces that you'd see when you first ingest ayahuasca, which are like, but for me, it was super easy. It went down so easy. I was like, this is a breeze. I am woman. I will rock this trip. And I was ready. So I lay down, and I started to see visuals pretty quickly. And with my eyes open, I saw these forms, this goddess form. And then I saw nature in all of its just detailed beauty. And I was like, all right, I can deal with this. And so I shut my eyes. And when I shut my eyes, I had a vision of a room. And in the room, it was a completely bare room, and it was a red color, and there were only 2 windows in the room. There were 2 long windows, and I was there alone in the room, and most of the time I could actually just see the room, but every so often I'd actually see myself in the room, and this freaked me out. And this is another thing that I will tell you about me is I'm a bit of a control freak, and whether I'm sober or not so sober, I like to know that I'm in control of my situation, so I had to open my eyes. And when I opened my eyes, I saw everything was okay, so I shut my eyes, and that's when the vine started speaking to me, and she said, keep your eyes closed, keep your eyes closed. Now, of course, this goes against everything I believe because it wasn't me in control, so again, I tried to open my eyes, and I was given one more warning to keep my eyes closed. When I closed my eyes this last time, I again saw this room, only this time there was a character in the room with me, and he looked like Johnny Depp, only a Johnny Depp who had stuck bobby pins in electric sockets. And he was tall and thin, and he wore these stockings. They were black and white striped, and he had on these shoes that reminded me of the shoes that Dorothy first saw when her house came crashing down in The Wizard of Oz. And he was jumping around the room, all giddy and excited, and telling me, just wait here, something will happen, wait here. But he was pissing me off. And I was really not so sure I was ready to wait. And ironically, later on, I learned that this is a room, this DMT waiting room, that so many journeyers who are really going into this ayahuasca trip, this is a room they're searching to find. It's a key to another door. And here I am in this room with this guy, and since I'm pissed off, I open my eyes. And that's when things start to change. And I notice that I'm not feeling so well anymore. And I have about 5 seconds before I'm going to puke all over myself. So I run to a tree and I start vomiting. And I'm there for a good few minutes, just throwing up. And when I finally get a breather, I realize that's not my only problem. And that, yeah, there are things going up, but there are other things that need to come down. And so I look over to where the toilet is, and I think that's not gonna happen. And I look over to the circle of people and I think, I don't really wanna leave this circle because it's the only place I know I'm safe. But the truth is I've never felt like I've had my own circle before. So leaving is just something I'm used to doing anyway. And I look down the hill, and down the hill is the cabin. And I know that the cabin has limited electricity, and I know it has a toilet. And I know that it's only a 5-minute walk to this cabin, and so this is what I decide to do. And so as I start going down the hill, I realize that I'm totally in control of my mind, but I have absolutely no control of my body. And I start running down this hill. Now, I like to go to the gym, but I am not a runner, and I do not like to run. And I realize as I'm running down this hill that I actually can't stop running, even if I want to stop, that my body is running. And as I'm running down this hill, I see a tree, and the tree is right in front of me. And I'm saying to myself in my brain, I am going to run into this tree. I am going to run into this tree. And I know I'm going to, and I can't stop, and I run into this tree, literally run into this tree. So I basically, from there, I am so surprised I did not have an accident. I swear to God I did not, but I crawl to the cabin. And I can't even go back up the hill. It's not even a thought at this point. I crawl to the cabin and I make it to the bathroom. And when I sit on the toilet, I hear, "Get it all out of you. Get it all out of you. You want this out of you. Get it out." And so I poop for what seems like my lifetime, I swear. And when I'm done, or when I think I'm done, and I'm ready to flush the toilet, it doesn't flush. And now I'm faced with another dilemma, because there's another person who's found his way down to the cabin, and he needs to use the bathroom too, and I need to flush this down the toilet. And so I spend the next 15, 20 minutes devising a way to actually pour water into the top of the toilet to flush it, you know? And when I'm finally done, I crawl out onto the porch. And I'm sitting on the porch, and seriously, there's a random rooster that comes by. It's like trippy, even though it's trippy anyway. And I'm sitting on the porch, and I start throwing up, only I have nothing to throw up. I didn't even eat that morning, so I'm just throwing up, and I feel my insides burning, and I feel like I am dying, and I realize I am dying, and this is my death, and my biggest fear of dying is now here, and I'm dying from pooping and puking. And the vine is still telling me to get it all out of me, to get it all out. And as I continue to get whatever is still in me out, I realize something else. I have this epiphany, and I'm throwing up, but what I'm throwing up now is my fear, and I'm also throwing up my fear of control, because I have just been taught that I have no control in this or any situation. And so I keep throwing up, and I also start to believe in hope, because the only way I'm going to survive is if I believe I can, because I've already brought this whole trip on me. And 5 minutes later, my boyfriend appears, and he begs me to come back to the circle. He promises he'll take me. I ask him to leave me to die, but he insists that we carry on. And what would have been a 10-minute walk back up the hill literally takes 2 hours. And I stop every 5 minutes to ask him to go on without me. And when we finally make it up to the top of the hill, everyone is excited to see me. And I notice that most of them are finishing up their journeys. And that's when I decide I need to lie down. And I realize that I was only beginning mine. Thank you.